A cloud can weigh over 1 million pounds. A day on Venus is longer than its year. And there is a fungus, a real, documented, peer-reviewed fungus, that hijacks an ant's brain, marches it to a specific location, makes it bite down on a leaf, and then explodes out of its head. Every single one of those statements is completely, verifiably true. I had to fact-check all of them twice. You're going to want to look these up yourself, because by the end of this video, you will be absolutely convinced we're lying to you. We're not. Okay, look up at a cloud, any cloud. Fluffy, white, innocent looking. Now, what would you guess it weighs? Like, basically nothing, right? It's floating. It's made of what? Water vapor and dreams. Here's the actual answer, calculated by researcher Peggy Lamone at the National Center for Atmospheric Research and cited by the USGS. A typical cumulus cloud, just your standard, average, nothing special white cloud, weighs approximately 1.1 million pounds. That is the weight of about 100 fully loaded school buses. Floating, above your head, right now. You'd assume that number is fake. It isn't. Here's how it works. A cubic meter of cloud contains only about 0.5 grams of water droplets, which sounds like almost nothing. But a cumulus cloud isn't a cubic meter. It's roughly 1 billion cubic meters of air. Multiply half a gram by a billion, and you get around 500 million grams, which converts to over 1 million pounds. The reason it floats isn't because it's light. It's because those tiny droplets are so small that air resistance holds them up as they fall, and rising warm air currents push them back. The cloud is falling, very, very slowly. It just can't catch up with itself. So the next time someone says something is lighter than a cloud, you can tell them a cloud is heavier than the entire Eiffel Tower. Here's one that sounds like a trick question. Which is older, Oxford University or the Aztec Empire? You'd assume, right, that a pre-Columbian civilization that built pyramids and ran a continent-spanning empire is older than a British university. And you would be wrong. According to the University of Oxford's own official history, and cross-referenced against Encyclopedia Britannica's timeline of the Aztec civilization, Oxford began teaching students as early as 1096 AD and was a fully functioning institution by 1167. The Aztec Empire, specifically the Triple Alliance that historians recognize as the formal beginning of Aztec imperial power, was founded in 1428 AD. That means Oxford University is at least 261 years older than the Aztec Empire. Let that sink in. There were students attending lectures in Oxford before the Aztecs even had an empire. When Aztec engineers were designing Tenochtitlan, Oxford had already been running for 3 centuries. This isn't a pedantic technicality. The dates are what they are. This next one breaks your brain a little if you think about it too long, so we're just going to go straight to the numbers. According to NASA's Solar System Exploration Database, confirmed by radar measurements and Magellan spacecraft mission data, a single day on Venus, meaning one full rotation on its own axis, takes 243 Earth days. A Venusian year, one full orbit around the Sun, takes only 225 Earth days. That means on Venus, a day is longer than a year. You would have your birthday before you finished your first day. To make it even stranger, Venus rotates backwards compared to most planets. If you stood on Venus, which please don't, the surface temperature is 900 degrees Fahrenheit and the atmosphere is sulfuric acid. The sun would rise in the west and set in the east, very slowly, over the course of months, and then the year would end before it finished setting. This is not a rounding error. This is not a quirk of how you define a day. A day on Venus is genuinely, measurably, certifiably longer than its year. I had to read this 3 times when I first found it. All right, this is the one. If you only share one fact from this video, make it this one. There is a real fungus, classified as Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, that infects carpenter ants, takes over their motor behavior, forces them to climb up a plant stem, clamp their jaws down on a leaf vein at a very specific height above the forest floor, and then erupts from the back of their heads, releasing spores onto the ants below. This was documented in a 2011 paper in BMC Ecology by David Hughes and colleagues at Penn State and the University of Copenhagen. It is real. It has been filmed. You can watch it. The behavior isn't random either. A 2009 study published in the American Naturalist found that infected ants consistently clamp down about 25 centimeters above the forest floor, the exact microclimate that maximizes spore dispersal for the fungus. The fungus has essentially evolved to use the ant as a guided missile for its own reproduction. The ant doesn't benefit. The ant dies. The fungus, however, is thriving. What's particularly unsettling is that the fungus doesn't infect the ant's brain directly. It infects the muscle tissue and produces chemicals that interfere with the ant's motor control. The ant's brain may still be functionally intact while it loses control of its own body. Scientists are still studying exactly how this works. The zombie part is real. The mechanism is still being figured out. If those facts wrecked your sense of what's real, there are more where those came from, every single week. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss one. And drop in the comments which one hit hardest, because I think you already know.